What happens when arrogance meets assumption and prejudice is revealed in the quietest, most humiliating way. Aaliyah Carter stepped into the boardroom of Hawthorne Industries with steady steps and a calm gaze, her simple dress and worn shoes contrasting sharply with the sleek suits and polished shoes surrounding her, yet her presence commanded attention. William Hawthorne, the billionaire CEO with icy eyes and a reputation for dismissing anyone he considered beneath him, leaned back in his leather chair, smirking as the staff whispered behind their hands, waiting for the entertainment of a black teenager claiming to be an heiress. Aaliyah's voice was soft but firm as she introduced herself, presenting documents and proof of inheritance that were met with scoffs and laughter, each chuckle cutting deeper than any insult she had faced before. William's smile was sharp, a mixture of amusement and condescension, as he leaned forward and asked questions that were meant to embarrass, but Aaliyah answered each one with clarity, calm precision, and undeniable knowledge of the company's history. The room watched, some leaning closer, some whispering warnings, because the tension was thick enough to slice through, the kind of silence that magnifies every heartbeat and every glance. Staff tried to hide their curiosity behind polite smiles, but the subtle fear of being wrong flickered in their eyes as Aaliyah continued, her documents organized, her explanation precise, each fact proving the legitimacy of her claim. William raised an eyebrow, not used to being challenged, especially by someone so young, so black, so underestimated. His smirk faltered as she outlined her family's trust, her rightful stake, and the conditions of inheritance with intelligence and confidence that defied expectation. Phones secretly recorded, cameras caught subtle expressions, and the world seemed to hold its breath as laughter began to die down, replaced by whispers of disbelief. Aaliyah's hand rested lightly on her folder, her calm gaze meeting William's, silently demanding recognition and respect, a courage born from years of being dismissed and underestimated. William leaned back, struggling to mask irritation and panic as he realized this was not an act, not a bluff, and the room's energy shifted from mockery to shock. The staff, initially entertained by prejudice, now exchanged glances of awe, unsure how to respond to a teenager demonstrating authority, intelligence, and legitimate power. Aaliyah smiled faintly, knowing the moment was delicate and pivotal, that patience and composure could turn arrogance into regret. If you want to see how William Hawthorne reacts when the board confirms the truth and the teenager they mock takes control, make sure you subscribe and comment just as served, because the story is about to reveal a humiliation no one in the room will forget. Aaliyah Carter remained standing in the expansive boardroom, her posture unwavering as the initial smirks and whispers slowly shifted into a tense, uncertain silence that seemed to stretch for minutes. William Hawthorne's icy eyes narrowed, his fingers tapping impatiently against the polished wood of the desk, trying to regain the dominance he had always held effortlessly in every room. But something about this teenager disrupted the familiar rhythm of control he had cultivated over decades. She began presenting additional documents, meticulously organized, showing historical transactions, trust agreements, and legal notarizations, each page reinforcing her legitimacy while the camera of a discreet assistant captured every angle, every shocked glance, every faltering smile of disbelief from the staff. The senior board members exchanged hurried whispers, their confident expressions faltering as Aaliyah outlined the conditions of her inheritance with clarity and an authority that carried decades of precision and preparation, leaving no room for doubt, no space for condescension. William leaned forward, attempting a casual tone, asking pointed questions meant to intimidate, to uncover weaknesses, to expose her as a fraud. But Aaliyah answered each challenge with calm logic, citing specific clauses, referencing company reports, and illustrating her understanding of both the financial and operational intricacies of Hawthorne Industries in a way that left the room leaning in involuntarily. Phones were subtly raised to record, hands slightly trembling as disbelief settled over faces that had mocked her mere moments before. The tension became almost physical, thickening the air, as some employees shifted in their seats nervously, while others silently acknowledged that they were witnessing something unprecedented. A young black teenager commanding respect in a space built to dismiss her. William's confidence wavered as Aaliyah highlighted a legal clause proving her full entitlement to a controlling stake, her calm voice carrying the weight of evidence, intellect, and authority simultaneously. He opened his mouth, then paused, realizing that every word he could muster would be drowned by the irrefutable facts before him. Board members began to nod subtly at one another, their expressions a mixture of astonishment, respect, and relief that the awkward moment was finally being resolved, but also a dawning awareness that they had misjudged her at first glance. Aaliyah's hands remained steady on her documents, her gaze locking with William's once more, silently demanding recognition for her years of preparation, her knowledge, and her courage in the face of mockery. The air shimmered with a quiet electricity, a mixture of triumph and revelation, as the very man who had laughed at her realized that the teenager he dismissed had not only proved her claim, but demonstrated a mastery and poise that could not be ignored. Cameras captured the final, frozen expressions of disbelief and awe, while whispers of validation spread like wildfire through the room. If you want to witness the exact moment William Hawthorne goes pale and the board publicly confirms Aaliyah's claim, make sure you subscribe and comment "Power of Truth," because the next chapter will show a humiliation and triumph that will echo through every corner of Hawthorne Industries and beyond. Aaliyah Carter felt the weight of every gaze in the boardroom as silence stretched uncomfortably, each second magnifying the reality of her presence, the years of preparation, and the sharp disbelief of those who had underestimated her. William Hawthorne, whose arrogance had long been untouchable, now sat frozen, a pallor spreading across his face as he realized that the teenager he had mocked was not only legitimate, but already commanding authority in a room built to intimidate her. The board members, initially skeptical and uncertain, leaned in closer as Aaliyah methodically walked them through the final details, her calm voice carrying each point with precision, tracing transactions, highlighting clauses, and showing calculations that left no ambiguity about her ownership and her control over Hawthorne Industries. Each document she placed on the table, each statement she made, chipped away at the carefully constructed wall of superiority William had built over decades, and the staff who had laughed earlier now found themselves watching in awe, their phones quietly recording history. The tension in the room became almost tangible, a tightrope stretched between disbelief and validation, as every corner, every chair, every glance carried the gravity of what was unfolding. Aaliyah's eyes never wavered from William, her presence unwavering, as if silently challenging him to argue, to object, or to deny facts that no one could dispute. She outlined every clause of the family trust, the specific conditions of her inheritance, the detailed company bylaws, and how her position as heiress granted her immediate decision-making authority, leaving William grasping for words that had always come easily to him. The senior board members exchanged hurried whispers, nodding subtly, some wide-eyed with shock, some with an expression of reluctant admiration, and the collective shift was unmistakable. Power was no longer in the hands of those who assumed superiority, but in the hands of someone they had dismissed. Phones buzzed quietly as assistants uploaded clips to social media, and soon the story of a teenager challenging a billionaire and winning legitimacy began spreading, a quiet storm that would shake reputations beyond the room. William swallowed hard, his ego bruised, his authority questioned, as Aaliyah's composure became the standard by which the board measured integrity, knowledge, and courage. The final moment came when the chair of the board, a figure who had watched quietly from the side, cleared their throat and formally confirmed Aaliyah Carter as the rightful heiress, her documents verified and her authority established. The room collectively exhaled, some gasping, some silently acknowledging the power of truth, while William Hawthorne's face paled further, realizing that mockery had backfired in the most spectacular way. Aaliyah's calm smile never faltered. She had proven her claim, commanded respect, and shown that courage, preparation, and unwavering dignity could topple assumptions built on prejudice. Cameras captured every reaction, every twitch of disbelief, and every subtle nod of recognition, a moment frozen in time that would be remembered by everyone present. As she gathered her documents and stepped back, she offered a polite nod to William, who could only stare, the lesson of humility etched into his expression. If you want to see the final chapter where Aaliyah takes control and delivers the ultimate lesson on respect, power, and the consequences of underestimation, make sure you subscribe and comment, respect her power, because the next chapter will conclude this story with a powerful, unforgettable ending. Aaliyah Carter stepped forward with quiet authority as the boardroom seemed to pulse with every heartbeat, her presence transforming the space from one of arrogance and doubt into a theater of respect and reckoning, every eye fixed on her as if gravity itself had shifted. William Hawthorne sat frozen in his chair, the color drained from his face, his confidence shattered as he watched a young black teenager, previously mocked, now holding undeniable power in her hands, the documents before her more than just paper. They were symbols of years of preparation, resilience, and courage that no amount of wealth or privilege could suppress. The board members leaned in, hushed voices giving way to nods, whispers of astonishment and admiration weaving through the room as Aaliyah outlined her immediate plans for the company, her vision precise, intelligent, and assertive, commanding attention without arrogance, showing that true leadership is earned through knowledge, integrity, and decisiveness. Cameras from hidden angles captured every detail, the shift in William's posture, the tightening of his jaw, the widening of eyes once filled with smugness now clouded with disbelief, as the world outside would soon witness the downfall of prejudice and the rise of rightful authority. Aaliyah paused briefly, her gaze sweeping across the room, meeting the eyes of employees who had doubted, clients who had scoffed, and finally William, whose ego crumbled silently as the weight of recognition settled in. With a calm voice, she declared that she would assume full control as heiress and chairperson, guiding Hawthorne Industries with transparency, fairness, and vision, leaving no room for doubt and no excuse for past disrespect. The room held its collective breath as William attempted to speak, but words failed him. The irony of a billionaire silenced by a teenager he underestimated was palpable, and every gesture of arrogance he once relied on had lost its power. The board officially endorsed her authority, their signatures formalizing what had already been made clear. Respect is not given. It is commanded by courage, preparation, and the willingness to stand firm even when the world doubts you. Phones buzzed and notifications exploded as clips of the confrontation went viral, social media erupting with praise for Aaliyah, admiration for her courage, and conversations about prejudice, entitlement, and justice spreading beyond the walls of the boardroom. William Hawthorne's assistants, colleagues, and longtime rivals could only watch in stunned silence as the young heiress began issuing her first decisions, confident, clear, and decisive, proving that intelligence and integrity are more powerful than mockery or wealth. Aaliyah's final act was simple yet unforgettable. She offered William a polite, measured nod, acknowledging the lessons learned in humility and respect, before turning her attention fully to the company she was destined to lead. The moment became more than a corporate takeover. It was a lesson for every person in that room and beyond. Assumptions based on race, age, or appearance are traps that blind judgment, and true authority is measured by courage, knowledge, and integrity, not by wealth or bias. If you are inspired by Aaliyah's unwavering strength and want to honor the power of truth and dignity, make sure you subscribe and comment, Power of Respect, because this story leaves a lasting lesson. Never underestimate someone who is prepared, focused, and fearless, because courage always wins in the end.